square. Here we go. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everybody. This is the very first Time About the Movies episode for 2025. And before I start here, I know that there wasn't like a little message about the year before or anything, like a little video. I did make a little video from that basically I took from last year and just replaced the Happy New Year 2024 at the end with 2025. Because honestly, really, the year was just such a downer for me, and I didn't want to. I don't want to make anybody feel less uplifting than most of the people are right now. But that's why I didn't really want to do it. But the year was just a rocky year for me, and it's not that I'm not worried about the year being bad or anything. It's just like when you get weighed down like I did in 2024 with all the stuff that happened to me, like my personal life and all that. Like I just really couldn't put the things together right now, and as you can tell, I'm still kind of feeling a little sick because I got a little cold going on here, but I am feeling a lot better, so that's why I didn't do it. I'm not trying to weigh anybody down, because I know right now everybody's celebrating the new year, and I'm celebrating it too. It's just like, I'm just hoping this year's better than last year, and as I say that, it's always going to get worse, but enough with that. The new year is here, so let's get back to, let's flash back in time about now 18 years ago, to the year 2007. I almost said 2025 again, but the summer of 2027 to be, here I go again, the summer of 2007. The summer of 2007. Okay. Back to the summer of 2007. I've been kind of hyping this up because this was is what I like to call one of the most overhyped summers of all time, because this was a summer that had a ton of blockbusters coming out that everybody was just so excited for. Everyone was thinking that this was going to be the big year with all these big new blockbusters. I mean, a new Shrek movie, a new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, a new Rush Hour movie, a new Ocean's 13 movie. We've got a Simpsons movie coming out in theaters, a new Bourne film, Transformers is coming to the big screen thanks to Michael Bay. Just all these projects that everyone was hyping up, making it feel like that this was going to be the biggest summer in the history of everything. And it was a packed summer overall, and a lot of the movies were good for summer blockbusters' sake. In terms of movies that are great overall, they're very few and far between. There's a couple of good ones that we'll eventually get to in the weeks and months to come here, but I think the first movie kind of perfectly sums up the example of how overhyped this summer was. Imagine sitting in a movie theater in the summer of 2006. You're just about to sit down to watch Superman Returns, and you have no idea that a Spider-Man 3 trailer is about to drop on you. And then you get a trailer that's as cool looking as this. I mean, that's really all you need to get us really excited, because, the last movie was such a big success. It was even bigger than the first movie. It was a better movie than the first film. And, everybody was really looking forward to seeing what this new Spider-Man movie was going to be like. And everyone got really excited for it. We couldn't wait to see what this was going to be like. And most people came out of it liking it, but they definitely had a lot of flaws to it. And eventually, as the time went on, we slowly but surely started to realize that, it wasn't that great to begin with. But does that make it a bad movie per se? Let's take a look at the plot here. Set after the events of Spider-Man 2, you have Peter Parker, once again played by Tobey Maguire, who's become a cultural phenomenon as Spider-Man, while Mary Jane Watson, played by Kirsten Dunst, continues her Broadway career. Harry Osborn, played by James Franco, still seeks revenge for his father's death, and in escape conflict, Flip Marko, played by Thomas Hayden Church, falls into a particle accelerator and is transformed into a shape-shifting sand manipulator. An extraterrestrial symbiote crashes to Earth and bonds with Peter, influencing his behavior for the worse. When Peter abandons the symbiote, it finds refuge in Eddie Brock, played by Topher Grace, a rival photographer, causing Peter to face his greatest challenge. And I think that paragraph kind of sums up everything that's wrong with this movie and kind of everything about the summer in general. A lot of these movies had way too much going on in all of these movies. Like, too many plot developments, too many things that just seem needlessly poured in there. they weren't simplistic. They weren't simple storylines here. You know, this is a film that you can is like, we didn't find this out until later on, but you can tell this was a film that was heavily influenced not by Sam Raimi, because heaven forbid, the director of the previous two movies, who made two critical and commercial successful films, you know, by the third film, he should have more free range to do whatever he wants to, but not with Sam Raimi and Sony. No, and especially not with Avi Arad, who forced him to put Venom in this movie, a character that he did not like at all. Like, he has gone on to say that he does not like Venom whatsoever, and they forced him to put him in there because he wanted to do a movie with what's his name? The villain from Homecoming, Hawkman, I think it is. I should know this. The Vulture. See, I need to do my research before I go on the air with this, but he wanted to do this with the Vulture and Sandman, but they forced him to put Venom in there, and of course, he did it. He accomplished what he wanted to do, and he was hoping that with the next movie, Spider-Man 4, he'd get to do whatever he wants to again, and then Avi Arad just kept pushing him again until he said, fuck this shit, I'm out, and they had to restart the series all over again. And for about the first half of Spider-Man 3, I think it's just as good as the first two movies are. There's a lot of action. You get more invested in the characters. The visuals are very impressive. I mean, the scene where, you know, you have Thomas Hayden Church's character finding out he's becoming the Sandman, just one of these really incredible shots that, you know, it's very much, it could very much be its own short film and would have been one of the best short films ever made. It is that great. It's the highlight of the movie, no question about it. And even the first bits of Peter with the black suit, when he realizes what he has become, are actually really good. And it is very, very interesting to see him go into this deep, darker level. But then the second half, when the suit just makes Peter act like a goddamn idiot, is where the movie just completely throws everything out the door, and it's just like, to quote Airplane, the shit literally hits the fan. Insert the scene from Airplane where the shit literally hits the fan, which I probably won't do, but you get the idea. Well, it starts with throwing in Bryce Dallas Howard's Gwen Stacy as a third wheel in Peter's love triangle, which I thought was absolutely pointless to throw her in there, like, because she brings absolutely nothing to the table, and she's just there to be the third wheel of the storyline here. Like, I know she's one of the main characters in the comic books. I've seen her in other stuff where she does play a bigger role in it, but you can't just, but the way they just throw her in there, it's not there to be because she's a big character and all. No, they just want to throw her in there because she's there to just create a pointless love triangle for an already complicated story. And it continues when you throw Venom in there. And like I said, for no point whatsoever, but for fan service. And, you know, you gotta stop throwing. This was around the time when I was saying that you need to stop throwing two villains into one movie. Like, I get it. The Dark Knight worked because you had two villains, because the Joker was supposed to be the main villain, and Two-Face is more of a supporting villain, and that made the movie work out that way. Here, Marvel feels the need to force both of these villains in here as the main threat, and it doesn't have a plan whatsoever for both of them to work together. And like I said before, Sam Raimi's not a fan of Venom, and he hates that period of Spider-Man in general, but he was forced to throw him in there because of Avi Arad. And, you know, there's more about the production process of this that I'll get to in just a little bit here. The worst is when Peter just starts acting like a goddamn idiot out in public, and when he has the symbiote, because all it does is make him dance like a dumbass in the middle of the streets of New York. And don't even get me started on the god-awful club dancing scene. And at the end of it, where the film has, for no reason whatsoever, Peter hits Mary Jane just because, you know, as an old friend once called it, the sin of Moses. Because he never makes up for it, and it's never brought up again in the movie. So it's completely and 100% pointless. Pointless to the entire thing whatsoever. At that point, that's when you knew Sam Raimi hated his job so much. It's widely known that Raimi hated that he had done two movies with Marvel that were big hits, and yet even with the third film, the studio, and more importantly Avi Arad, wouldn't let him make the movie he wanted to make. As I said before, he wanted to make a movie where the Sandman and Vulture break out of prison and cause havoc, but Avi Arad forced him to put Venom because that's what the fans want to do. And going back to what Carlisle said on a couple of cold ones on Spill.com back in the day, C. Robert Cargill, who you know now is a famous screenwriter, he pointed out an old episode that this is the same Avi Arad that said that the 2003 Hulk was the best movie Marvel ever produced, and that Bratz, which he would produce later on in the year, was the X-Men for teenage girls. I think that pretty much sums up everything that's wrong with Avi Arad. Here's my thoughts with what happened. By this third film, Sam Raimi should have the right to make the movie he wants to make. He delivered two mega hits to the studio that were both great movies, so by that point, Just give him a blank check and let him do whatever he wanted to do. They should have given Raimi the same treatment Warner Brothers gave Christopher Nolan when he did the Batman sequels. They should have let him do whatever he wanted to do, but no. They pushed him into doing whatever they wanted, and thus the second half of the film stumbles because that's where you can tell Raimi gave up caring and was only sticking around just for the paycheck. And you think they'd be done with the fucking over Raimi over that one, but no. Avi Arad said, forced him to make the changes Arad wanted again, and that's the point where Raimi finally said, fuck it, I quit. And honestly, you can't really blame him for not sticking around, because there's no excuse for him to do this to him. When 3 films were all successful movies, and then you, on this 4th film, you're still going to screw him over for reasons that are beyond me. And thus we have the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which, I'll say this. That movie clearly was made by somebody who didn't have the love of Spider-Man like Raimi did, and was just made as a quick cash cow. Like, Andrew Garfield aside, Andrew Garfield was good. The movie was garbage. I'm sorry, I don't like the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I don't like those movies in general, but that's for another day and time. But back to Spider-Man 3. Overall, the first half really is the best part of the movie. It's not until you reach the second half where you see all the problems. The pointless villain, the lame intro to the pointless villain, the pointless love triangle, a lazy final climax, way too much goddamn CG. Just an unpleasant conclusion to what was starting off as a great movie. The ending of the movie just makes no sense whatsoever. Like, it just ends. Like, it's just Peter going into the nightclub, and they're reconciling, and they're hugging, and that's it. Like, did you really think that was how the movie this series was going to end when you first watched the first one back in 2002? I sure shit didn't, but this is the perfect example of a polarizing movie with a first half that's so damn good and a second half that's so damn bad. Spider-Man 3 just joins the ranks of Blade Trinity, X-Men 3 as bad Marvel threequels that bring in way too many pointless characters, a lame story, too many villains, and just a lousy, lousy ending. Spider-Man 3 starts off great, but ends up being really, really bad by the end of it. And it would take nearly 10 years before they finally got it right again. And we'll eventually get into that when we get to the MCU Spider-Man movies, as well as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But we're still way too far away from that. But that's Spider-Man 3 for you. So, obviously, that was the big hit of the weekend, and also the big hit of the summer and the year in general, because that was the #1 movie of the year. So, who's going to combat with that? Well, at least one film went wide, hoping that it would counter-program, and needless to say, it didn't work so well. When you see it, you can kind of see why. Curtis Hanson's latest film, Drew Barrymore and Eric Bana starring in, Lucky You. Or as you might look at this, the origin story for many YouTubers out there who gamble, like I'm talking about your Vegas Mats, your Mr. Handpay, your Brian Christopher Slots, your SD Guy 1234. I know a lot of these guys, so I watch them all the time, and but that's for another day. But in this movie, you have Eric Bana starring as Huck Cheever, which that's just a stupid name. He plays a poker player, brilliant but also prone to let emotion take over. It's the week of the Poker World Series, and Huck must come up with $10,000 for the entry fee, where he wins, loses, borrows, and loses, and even steals part from Billy Offer, an earnest young woman, played by Drew Barrymore, who is new in town, and who catches Huck's eye. By the time the tournament starts, Huck owes everyone. Complicating things is the arrival of Huck's father, played by Robert Duvall, who Huck detested for leaving, having left his mother, a champion player in town, to win. Can Huck learn to play poker the way he lives and to live the way he plays poker, or is his only flush the sound of his life going down the toilet? Well, I don't think it's his luck going down the toilet, but it's Curtis Hanson's luck going down the toilet, because, good lord, what a bad movie this really is. And you expect a lot more from Curtis Hanson in general. He's made a lot of great movies, especially in the last 10 years. We've talked about a lot of his great movies on here, but this movie didn't feel like a film that deserved to have his name on this. It's one of those movies that is very complicated, because there's all these characters here, and you have no idea what's the overall objective of the storyline here. Is this supposed to be an uplifting father-son story? Is it supposed to be a love story between Eric Bana and Drew Barrymore? It's trying to combine both of those along with the high-stakes world of poker, and it just doesn't work at all. And I'm seeing here why this probably failed, because this sat on the show for 2 years at Warner Brothers and went through numerous release date changes, as well as half a dozen different cuts of the film because of negative test screenings. If you have to do 6 of these test screenings 6 of these test screenings to realize that this film isn't working. Maybe you should just go ahead and just dump the film in general. Like, this is the type of film that should have been a tax write-off, and not the stuff that Warner Brothers currently is making tax write-offs off of. Look, Eric Bana and Drew Barrymore have more than proven how great of actors they are. Robert Duvall has proven how great of an actor he is. Deborah Messing in this movie has proven how great she can be as an actress. But everybody in this movie is just so wasted in this film. There's nothing of value whatsoever. The story is just all over the place. It's not engaging. It's not interesting whatsoever. It's a terrible movie. It's a bad film. A waste of good talent all across the board. I hated it. I didn't like it at all, and I think most people can agree with me that, yeah, that this is not a very good film. So with that said, let's get back to some good movies. How about we get to some really good movies, the best films of the week, honestly. Let's start with the first film we have here, and that is Julie Christie starring in Away From Her. I'm not going to lie, I completely forgot that Sarah Polley directed this movie. And, of course, Sarah Polley is the person who directed Woman Talking, which was a pretty good movie overall. And she was going to do the Bambi remake, and, of course, they're no longer doing that anymore, which is good because they shouldn't touch that movie. But this is Away From Her, and I'm only bringing this up for one particular reason. I'll get to that in just a second, but in the film, you center on a couple whose marriage is tested when the wife begins to develop Alzheimer's and moves into a nursing home, where she loses virtually all of her memory of her husband and begins to develop a close relationship with another nursing home resident. The movie features Julie Christie, as well as Olivia Dukakis and Wendy Crewson from the Santa Claus movies. And, of course, Julie Christie actually got an Academy Award nomination for this performance in this film, and it's really not hard to see why, because she really is really good in the film. She is she's very good in the film. They do a very good job of creating this wonderful story here that doesn't sugarcoat anything. Like, you should see like the troubles that Alzheimer's really does to people, and just like how your family members can be taken away because they lose their memory of you. And yeah, it's just it's a sad film in general, but it's a really uplifting film too at the same time, and it just works very well because you do buy into the chemistry between Christie and Gordon Pinsett. You do buy into the chemistry of all the actors in here. Everybody in here plays their part very well, and it just works on a number of different levels. It's a very engaging film, a very entertaining film, one I really recommend. If you like Women Talking, you'll definitely want to see this one to see where Sarah Polley got her directing shots from, because this is a film that she did beforehand, and it's a really good movie. It's a really good film. I highly recommend it, Away From Her. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last film we have here, probably the most notable film that came out this weekend besides, obviously, Spider-Man 3, and that is Kerry Russell in Waitress. So Waitress tells the story of Kerry Russell as a young woman trapped in a small town in an abusive marriage who faces an unwanted pregnancy while working as a waitress. And, of course, she has a relationship with Nathan Fillion in the movie, and as a cast, it also includes, as you see, Cheryl Hines, the late Adrian Shelley, who also directed the film, Jeremy Sisto as her abusive husband, and Andy Griffith, which you can never go wrong with having Matlock in your movie. I'm just saying. But this, of course, went on to become a very successful musical, and you can see why it works on so many levels. It's a very good film that features a lot of great talent in here. It's a movie that is very uplifting, very, very vibrant and colorful, and it just has a great stacked cast that really works this material very well here. And hard to believe that this was also the same year Judo came out, so Fox Searchlight had 2 movies centering around an unwanted pregnancy that actually turned out to be really damn good movies. I mean, Judo I think is much better, but I like this one a lot. I really think this is a very entertaining film. And it's a shame that the director passed away not too long after this, because she really would have gone on to become a really good director if she kept making movies like this. I mean, this is a really good film featuring a lot of good talent, a really good storyline. It's a very good mix of comedy and drama. It's such a great film, lots of great talent. I mean, what more can you say, man? This is a great film. I can't recommend it enough. Seek this one out, Waitress. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we will take a look at 4 more movies, including the sequel to 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, not directed by Danny Boyle, which should give you an indication of how the movie's going to play out, but we also have Lindsay Lohan, Jane Fonda, and Felicity Huffman starring in Georgia Rule, Larry the Cable Guy in his second big-screen motion picture since Health Inspector, Delta Farce, and a star-studded comedy that should have been good, The X, with Zach Braff, Amanda Peet, Jason Bateman among the cast, but yeah, that's easier said than done. But we'll eventually get to that one when we get to tomorrow's show. So that's tomorrow's show. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and that bell button, because we post new videos here every day, and you get updates when you hit that bell. So with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.